Hello, good afternoon to the fourth edition of the Responsible Regions Dialogue. These meetings takes place every third Thursday of each month, and we have already done 3. This is the 4th one, as I said, and we are planning to go until the end of the year because there are many things, many challenges ahead of us, namely the next generation of smart specialization implementation. This dialogue, we do that in the afternoon in order to facilitate the discussion and the exchange of view. And it's a dialogue that normally gathers academia and regional economic practitioners. We think that there are a lot of things to gain from these dialogues of academia and regional economic practitioners. Normally in EURADA, we represent the regional economic practitioners, but today you see the special layout because I am in a university, in the Catholic University of Murcia, and we are teaching in the masters of this university cohesion policy and now the recovery funds and the enterprise policies of the European Union and the Green Deal. It's incredible. Those of us who has some years to learn in the university these type of things that are not so formalized. But the times change, and this is a good vision that the university is very much connected with the reality. And representing the regional economic practitioner, what I wanted to say is that we need as well this knowledge of the academics in order to better shape policies. Today, we are going to discuss about the entrepreneurial discovery process. We have discovered since the first implementation, since the first generation of the smart specialization strategies, that is a very powerful tool. And today, Ioan Levitchi, an expert from the Regional Development Agency Centru in Romania, is going to explain us not only how they use this powerful tool, but how is his territory going beyond that. And they are using the entrepreneurial discovery process for other purposes, and namely to engage citizens and companies for other activities and the civil society, which is something that is always needed in our strategies and our territories. As in every dialogue, we will have a presentation from Ioan Levitchi. Then we will have a short question and answer session. And then later we will have the 2 experts, the 2 panelists that we normally have. One from academia, and we feel honored to have James Wilson here. He's from the Orchestra, the laboratory, the Regional Policy Research Center belonging to Deusto, and he's an excellent researcher on the governance of innovation with a lot of publication and practical projects related to cluster the role of the universities and the smart specialization in general. And as well, we have Nathalie Boulanger. She's para-academic because she has done a PhD, which is not normal, at least in many development agencies. But nowadays, Nathalie is the head of the European Department and Innovation, and she was working in smart specialization since the beginning. I will introduce you later, but the development agencies are using as well the entrepreneurial discovery process for other activities and other things not related directly to the smart specialization strategies. So this is the program, and then we will start the debate, and we will give you opportunities for the research, responsible research and innovation community about events, opportunities for publication, project search, partner search, this type of things. But we want to have a debate, an open debate, and I know that there are people in the public, already in the public, that said to me that they will say something. So without no more introduction, it is a pleasure to have here Ioan Levitchi to present the Smart Specialization Strategies done in ADR Centru. Now the Regional Development Agencies in Romania has a strong position because they are becoming managing authorities in this programming period. So even if they have a lot of experience in the previous program, everything has been reinforced in the landscape of regional authorities in Romania, which is always a very good news. So without no more introduction, Ioan, the word is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Esteban, for this kind introduction. Before beginning, I will ask the organizer to allow me to share my screen, just to have my presentation prepared. Okay. So yes, seems to be right. Again, thank you, Esteban, and thank you, EURADA, for considering our experience relevant. And of course, thank all the participants for their interest. I hope that what I am about to share with you to be useful, at least in some extent. Please notice that we are fairly new in this business of smart specialization, and especially in using the entrepreneurial discovery process tool. And I don't know, maybe what is new to us, what is news for us could be old news for you, but nevertheless, I think that sharing the experience is a good way to go forward, even if sharing an experience means to subject this experience to the critical eye of someone else. Anyway, just a very quick and brief introduction on my part. My name is Ioan Levitchi. I'm working in Romania in the Regional Development Agency Centru. In Romania, I'm the coordinator for the Smart Specialisation Strategy in the agency, and also for a few years now, I'm pretty much dealing with the EDP process. First, not knowing very much what I was doing, and discovering in the process and learning, and trying to make the same mistakes and do other mistakes, of course. And yes, it was quite a challenge for us to learn how to use this entrepreneurial discovery process to all it extends. I don't think that we are mastering it yet, but I think that we are on the right track on this. A few words about our region. As I said, we are lying in the middle of the Romania, in the middle of the country, 2.33 million people, a very low unemployment rate. This was before the COVID crisis, of course. A lot of companies, a lot of industrial parks, hubs, digital innovation hubs, part of the new and ongoing growing network of European digital innovation hubs. We are pretty good on foreign investment as well. We have this possibility to provide state aid intensity according to the state aid rules up to 50% for any company, and we have a very good urbanization rate. As for the agency, for the Regional Development Agency Centru, was established in 1998, so has some experience on the market. It's organized as a public NGO. We were at the beginning implementing agency for FARE programs, and for the time being, we still are the intermediate body for the Regional Operational Program 2014-2020, and of course we are preparing to act as managing authority for the Regional Operational Program Centru for 2021-2027, which was quite a challenge again for us, because it's a big step forward to go from intermediate body to managing authority. We are also dealing with business support. We are a member of the European Enterprise Network, and until now we contracted and implemented over 2,000 projects in the region with more than 2 billion euros budget. So these are some key features of my organization and of course my region. Just a quick history on the Smart Specialization Strategy. First version was 2014. In 2016, we began working on the new version of the Smart Specialization Strategy. It was the first time we've engaged in the process of entrepreneurial discovery process. So it was the first time when we had contact with this process and trying to learn how to do it. And also we established the Regional Innovation Consortium. Yes, now we already have the second version of the Smart Specialization Strategy dealing with the next programming period. Somehow Smart Specialization Strategy and the Regional Operational Program are aligned in order to make things easier. And also in this new version, we've employed the process of entrepreneurial discovery together with all the groups. And yes, I think that we were better on this, and also the people from the region coming in this process, involving them in this process, were more familiar with what we are asking on their part, and the input was much more substantial than the first batch of such meetings. But nevertheless, still a lot of things to learn on this. Well, during this process, we had a surprise. The surprise was that somehow someone involved from the very beginning in this process saw this entrepreneurial discovery process as a tool which might be used on their interest. Fairly okay. So without wanting to become so, we became a provider of a best practice, which was quite a surprise. Considering that a private entity asked us for permission to adopt our ADP model and to replicate it at the local level, and the logic behind this request and behind this process was to generate projects and to establish partnerships in order to help the local innovation community. Well, of course, we gave our permission. Why wouldn't we? So during 2 months in the beginning of 2020, they organized 4 meetings. The topics were Industry 4.0, energy and smart city, food and health, and they had over 90 participants generating over 40 project ideas, working on 15 project features. And yes, 10 months later, then 5 of the projects were in advanced maturing state, while others were under preparation for submission in future calls. Well, I think that they've managed to do more than we had managed to do in our first batch of such meetings, which was quite astonishing for us. And there is more here. The working groups were transformed in communities, and the participants kept on working together and cooperate with each other. And the only explanation we came with is that this is an advantage for a high resolution territorial approach. Considering that the territory on which this ADP process was organized and from whom they recruited the participants, it was a city and some metropolitan area surrounding the city, a big city, of course. I think that this is the reason why the people there kept on working together even after the ADP process was finished. We didn't get involved in this process. We prefer to stay aside and just to let the process unfolding as the organizers saw it. So, sorry. Of course, the organizer was in permanent contact with us, and they provide us the results, the DP reports, and the list of project ideas. And some of the projects we took it and we took them and put them on our project pipeline associated with a Smart Specialization Strategy. And also there are these 4 communities, local communities established during the EDP process, local EDP process, and they kept on working together, and they follow up on initiatives and on project ideas and so on. A few projects coming from this process are right now in quite a matured state. They are already submitted for financing and are under evaluation for financing in different regional operational, in different operations from the regional operational program, especially Priority Axis 1. Some of them are ready to be submitted when the call for proposal will be open, the proof of concept scheme. So they all are innovative project or project dealing heavily with innovation. The health community is providing a solution for the local response on the COVID crisis. And another project, a pretty big one, a project concerning research infrastructure, has been submitted to ADR Centru for technical assistance for maturing. So they want our help to prepare the feasibility studies and technical projects in order to go further with the project, and then come to us for asking for grants and state aid to build this infrastructure, which is interestingly enough in creative industry, which is wonderful. This is, you can see on the slide a picture taken from one of the EDP process. The guy standing put in the middle of the picture is actually the organizer. As I said, the organizer was local private entity, actually a consultancy company. And when I was first presenting this process and this how can I put it, this experience, a very important question was raised about why a private entity could be interested to do such a thing. What are they gaining from this? What is the business model? I can remember that my answer was a bit sketchy, and maybe I was not very convincing on what I was saying. In preparation for today's presentation, I reached the guy from the consultancy company and asked him, well, what is your answer to this question? Why did you do it? And the answer are, as put it on the slide, first and foremost, for them, it's very important to be present in the community and to give back to the community something. So the corporate social responsibility on their part was a big concern, and they want to exercise it also by this process. Of course, another thing is the publicity and awareness for the private organizer, and their constant effort to maintain relevance, to continue to be relevant in the innovation community, because the company is somehow specialized in innovative projects. So they are helping especially innovators trying to go to the market with their ideas. And they also wanted to identify partners and ideas for future projects, and of course, identifying clients for the consultancy branch of the business. And as you already noticed, some of the ideas generating during this process were transformed in a project, and the consultancy company has done the consultancy part for this project and submitted for financing. And also another result, which was not very obvious first time I was talking about this experience. Another result was the fact that the EDP groups which were of course virtually assembled in local communities, became the core for establishing knowledge innovation communities in the region in relation with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. For the time being, there are established knowledge innovation communities in energy, in manufacturing, in food, and in urban mobility, which all these four segments are very well represented in our Smart Specialization Strategy, and somehow they are very strong direction of specialization in our region. So the process was somehow natural in this, and there is another knowledge innovation community on the way. I hope they will be successful in their attempt to enter in the relationship with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and this is on cultural industry. So, sorry, as I said, for us, the request to apply the EDP processes at the local level was quite a surprise. We haven't thought about using this tool in this way. We follow the process and provide any assistance, any kind of assistance they asked for, but we didn't want to get involved actively in the process, because we wanted to see how it is unfolding without us taking the stage. And well, the success of this piloting made us think about how can we replicate this model in our region, to other cities or to other communities. And for the time being, we haven't been able to come up with a right answer, mainly because we think that a very important condition is to find the local organizer interested to take the lead. And we haven't been able to find a similar local organizer, or maybe we didn't look very, very heavily on this, but we will come back to this in our region. And yes, the local character seems to be, well, for us at least, the main driver for transforming these ad hoc groups, as we are calling it in our region, into communities of people, communities that are continuing to work together even after the groups are even after the ADP process is concluded. We haven't been able to replicate this model to a larger scale, regional scale. So maybe it's because the sectoral working groups engaging in the ADP process from time to time are not a very, I don't know, very heterogeneous, and with people coming from different parts of the region, they are not very familiar with one another, and maybe that's why they seem not to be able to continue to work. Well, some connections have been made, has been made to within this group. So after a while, we are discovering that some partnerships are forming following their contact inside these sectoral working groups, but not at the extent which this company has been able to do it. And probably another reason for this is their different interests from ours, and they maybe are more keen to follow up with participants than us. I don't know. These are just hypotheses for the time being, and we want to find a way to verify if this is true, or there are other reasons for these differences I was talking about. So this is our experience, pretty rough one in terms of I don't know, science. Was not very well distilled, but nevertheless was again quite a surprise for us to see this instrument be used with successfully in a different setup and with different goals in mind, and with a different kind of organizer. So yeah, well, we were glad that we had this, and as I said, we are trying to find a way to replicate it at the regional level. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much to you for being so inspiring, Ioan. Very interesting, and I like very much. And at the end, it's not a surprise that the entrepreneurial discovery process could be used elsewhere, because as we know, smart specialization strategies becoming more and more a trend outside of the European Union, even if they don't have to use, they don't have the condition, the ex ante or the enabling condition nowadays, and they are using this in order to gather ideas and to gather the different actors together to design a regional strategy or something like that. We know examples in Australia or in Chile. They have been working a lot, in Colombia and many other countries. The Joint Research Center of the European Commission have studies there. We are going to open a quick question and answer session. If there are any questions from the public. If not, I have a couple of them. Yes? Ioan, I have a question related to the implementation, the actual implementation of the entrepreneurial discovery process by the consultant. Because normally, traditionally, in the smart specialization strategy, we produce a previous study, and then we go with the study to meet the people, and we try to develop a shared vision, and then to follow all the stages. I'm sure that the consultant didn't make so long journey, so it was more simple. Could you explain us how in practice, more or less, they establish the meetings and how they organize those meetings and so on?
Yeah, I will try to explain the process. As far as I know the process, as I said, we were not very much involved in the process. We just mainly we provided the methodology. They were asking for our methodology, and we, of course, we provided the methodology with no problem on our part. The the ideation process was not focusing on the part of identifying the sector or niches and so on. This is not interesting for a consultancy company or for any private organization. They were very interested in generating project ideas and projects, and they used the Smart Specialization Strategy as a reference. The Smart Specialization Strategy, which were our creation, of course. They use it as a reference, and they use it as a point of beginning the discussion. But as I said, their main goal was to generate partnership around ideas, project ideas, and partnerships around the ideas. So yes, of course, the process was more concrete in a way. We are also using this ADP process to generate project ideas, not only to generate discussion around niches of specialization or to confront the stakeholders in the region with our ideas and to ask them if it is okay or not. So yeah, this was the shortcut they took on this.
Okay, thank you very much. After this inspiring presentation, we are going to listen what the panelist says. And first, we are going to have the opinion of James Wilson. James is from Orchestra, is a laboratory.
Sorry, Esteban. I think Natalie is raising her hand.
Okay. Yes, if it is possible to ask a question.
Okay, ask a question, Natalie. Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Ioan, for the presentation. A very interesting presentation. And it's always a pleasure to share our experience. One of the key questions of the entrepreneurial discovery process is the motivation of the participants to be involved in the process. In the presentation, you have perfectly identified what are the benefits for the local private consultancy firm and for the territories, but what are the benefits for the participants themselves in the local communities?
Yeah, well, we have to take into consideration that in our part of the world, the cooperation between people is not a very common thing. So sometimes it's very hard, or it's harder to find a partner, to find a partner of dialogue. Maybe there are people that have ideas and they don't have a platform to which they can share the ideas and they can find other people for cooperation in developing the ideas. So I think that this was the main driver for the participants to get involved in this kind of process, even though for some people outside our area could seem counterintuitive, you know. So I think that people wanted to find partners, partners to work with in order to develop their own ideas. Please take into consideration that some of the participants were coming from the university in the city, which is the biggest university in our region. So we are not talking about only small individual innovators. No, we are talking about also some institutionalized innovators or some institutions with very high presence in the innovation community. Nevertheless, they were part of this and they worked together with a company. And on the other hand, the company organizing this meeting is not your normally medium company of consultancy. No, they are pretty much involved in this innovation community and innovation process. They are also part of our Regional Innovation Consortium, and the company, the consultancy company, is one of the most active stakeholder in the region in terms of promoting innovation. So, yeah, maybe that's another reason for their success.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Esteban.
Yes, Antonio.
Could I make a question?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Jovic. I have the following question. I don't know if you have different tracks for projects emerging from the EDP process and others coming from other parts in the region. I mean that the question is that all projects financed under risk-free process must come from an EDP process or not? Do you have separate programs?
It is okay to answer? Is this the only question?
Yes. Antonio Romero is the head of the Smart Specialization Strategy in the Development Agency of Murcia. I introduce you. Okay.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, and thank you very much for your question. It's quite interesting. For the time being, we do not have different tracks for projects coming from EDP, apart from the projects coming from other processes. I don't know. We thought about using the EDP process as a pre-selection process for some of the projects, but nevertheless, we didn't came up with the methodology that is transparent enough and provides equal chances for everyone. So even though a project can be generated inside the EDP process, the project still has to compete in an equal environment with all other projects which maybe are not linked with the EDP process. So this is the situation for the time being.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Antonio and Joan, for the answer. I think Nikos Saharis wants to say something. I am right or not?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Esteban. I just wanted to ask, thank you very much, first of all, for the presentation. Since the Regional Development Agency is also acting, as I understand, as a managing authority, and you are in the transition between the first and the second Smart Specialization Strategy, I wanted to ask, how did you monitor the results of the first Smart Specialization Strategy, and I mean, in general, how do you took that into account for the second one?
Well, the first version of the Smart Specialization Strategy has embedded a monitoring procedure, and we had a batch of indicators, and of course we were looking to the indicators. The monitoring process was done inside our agency by us, of course. We've generated a report, a monitoring report, but you have to take into consideration that the first version of the strategy was our first attempt to think the regional development in these terms, and was mainly an exercise because we didn't had too many instruments in our disposal to implement actually the strategy, which are about to change right now in the next programming period. So it was very hard for us to see what was the result of our own action, direct result of our own action, or was the result of outside actions outside from our agency. As for taking the lesson learned and applying in the new version of strategy, we were very concentrated on this. First and foremost, the main conclusion of the first monitoring exercise was that we have to change the monitoring process. And we did it. Then we have to change the indicators. And yes, in the new version, we did it. And we also saw that some things are going up, and we thought about how to help this going further. And we saw also that some indicators or some realities in this innovation communities and innovation regional ecosystem was going down, and we also wanted to know how to support, how to invert the trend that we saw. So this is how we took into consideration for the next programming period and for the next version of the Smart Specialization Strategy, the conclusions taken from the monitoring report. I don't know if it's answered to your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nikos University in Greece. We have another question from Marisa Berdiri from Kayanai. Marisa, it's yours. Maybe because they notify me by email. Yes, but Jerk Johnson has a question. Does your IDP process involve discussion with the central government and other vertical innovation partners like international companies? Jerker Johnson is from Ostrobothnia. Do you want to formulate yourself the question, Jerker, and it will be easier?
Yes, I could do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
I mean, I shared an article on our EDP process or the link to that article. And we are a small region, and I see that the problem is that we have innovation partners that are in the region, but we are also innovation partners that are outside the region and even outside Finland. And this is we have been able to conclude on this and the networks on this, but we have not been able to conclude on the dialogue with the central government in the field of innovation. And then I would ask for this reason about your experience in Romania, speaking with the central government in bringing the findings from your process to central policies and also to international companies? What are your experiences? Thank you.
Yeah, I was quite challenged here. Well, in the former period, the first Smart Specialisation Strategy, the dialogue with the central government in how to lift, how to export to them our findings was almost none. Right now, we are working together with some central government representatives dealing with the National Smart Specialization and Innovation Strategy to see how can we share experiences and most of all, how can we bring to the national level the findings from the regions. We have established a platform of dialogue, which is the National Committee for Smart Specialization. And this committee is working fairly well in the way that we are helping in a way that the central government to come with the National Smart Specialization Strategy. On the other hand, the discussion on the actual channels for taking the regional findings of the EDP process and embed it to the national strategy, and of course further on the national intervention instruments, is not done yet. We in the regions, all the regions have thought about this process and came up with some ideas on or some mechanism on how to do it, how it's the best, what could be the best way to do this, but there is no decision yet. So hopefully we will have this dialogue with the national level, and we will be able to give them our findings. We are very interested, for example, in how to use what we are discovering from the EDP process, but we are not able to use in the region. So maybe there are some niches coming out from the process for which there is no critical mass in the region, but it could be a critical mass on national level if we can coordinate between the regions and with the national level, you know? So this kind of stuff is still not very clear for us for the time being, but the situation is different because right now we have the possibility to discuss and to work with the national level. So there is a hope, a very high hope, that we will be able to cooperate with the national level in this kind of stuff. We will see. We are pressing on this. We have our momentum right now, and we will see if we can do this. As for the international companies, they had no dialogue. They had no dialogue with us. Sorry, my fault. They have no dialogue with us in the previous version of the Smart Specialization Strategy. But right now, we were quite surprised that in the last EDP meetings that we had organized, they came. Some of them came, and not only that they came, but they also raised questions and asked for things to be done in order for them to increase their participation in the innovation community in the local innovation community, in the regional innovation community, which was quite a surprise for us. And we are now thinking about the best way to have them on board and to work with them. And yeah, companies like Siemens, like Continental, which are present with large factories in the region right now, want to develop this kind of approach in the region, which is wonderful for us.
Thank you, Ioan. Like always in these sessions, we have problem of time, and we have two excellent panelists. As you know, every session we ask one regional practitioner and one academic to come. And the first one is going to be Nathalie Boulanger. Nathalie Boulanger is the head of European project and the responsible as smart specialization in the development agency Centru from Centre Val de Loire. This was one of the regions first to join the Seville platform. So it's a pioneer in France. They have been helping other regions to do pilot industrialization. But Nathalie is here mainly because they are using the entrepreneurial discovery process. She will tell her impression, but I'm going to announce you as well in the rural development program. So for the focus group, which is very interesting, this application. Many of you know Nathalie. She was the coordinator of the Beyond EDP Interreg Europe project, one of the first one approved on the entrepreneurial discovery process. And she has been as well the partner of Marie, a project related to responsible research and innovation supported by Interreg Europe. So Nathalie, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Esteban. Yeah, maybe one very interesting point in your presentation, Ioan, is the key role of the moderator. In the case of the Central region, it was a private firm, a consultancy firm, but this role of moderator is probably one of the key factors of success, because as you mentioned in the remark letters, in order to foster the entrepreneurial discovery process, you have to build something, to build trust between the different stakeholders involved, and the moderator should be, how can I say, a trust third party and a neutral third party. So I think this is the first thing. And maybe the second thing is the moderator should act as a mediator between different worlds, the different part of the quadriplex, and especially between the academic part and the entrepreneurial part, but also between the institutional part and the academic part, and the institutional part with the entrepreneurial part. And a key question is, you rely on a private company for do that locally, but why do you not rely on your organization to do that at the regional level? Because from my experience, economic regional development agency could act as this moderator, because in our region we act as the moderator of the entrepreneurial discovery process. And why is it not the case in your country? It is probably one of my first question when I heard your presentation. But maybe you can answer after if you want, Ioan. And
I can answer on the spot. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
and I would like also to emphasize
later, Ioan, because we have a short time constraint. It's better if you answer everything. You make a reaction to Nathalie. Thank you very much.
And the second thing I just would like to highlight is the similarities between the entrepreneurial discovery process in the risk-free and in the responsive innovation or social innovation. First of all, it is the participative process. And of course, when you have to identify the priority of the RIS3, you can rely on the different stakeholders. But normally, in the implementation phase of the RIS3, you engage also the stakeholders in the implementation, and in order to feed the pipeline of the innovative project. And it is the case in the Centru. But the other similarities are more about the outputs, the positive externalities, and I see both. The first one is the relationship to the territories, and in social innovation as well, in RIS3, the process should be fact-based and territory-based, and it is very important to have a local community and related to the local stakes and the local problems. And the second one is the capacity building of different actors and different participants involved, not only the participant of the EDPs themselves, but also the capacity building of the moderator. And I think it is very, very interesting. So thank you very much.
Ioan, a short reaction, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nathalie, for your comments based on your experience. Ioan, please.
Yeah, thank you. Nathalie is right. We don't want to give up our role in the region, of course. We didn't. The process I've talked about was not meant to. How to put it, to make us less involved, you know. So was just a thing that happened beside our own effort in the region. And even though, yes, we need to get involved, we need to get in front of this, I think that having a local organizer, autonomous or in relation with us, can help, or there are signs that this can help to bring together more closely the local community. If we are using a local proxy, let's say, which is more better known in the community and has a better social capital in the community. So even though maybe you're right, we should be there and we should take the lead, probably. Nevertheless, I think that having a local organizer, a local co-host, let's say, could help a lot. And what was strange again for us is that we thought about EDP process until this point as a regional process. Mm. And we haven't thought about having this process at a local level. Mm. So it was a strange discovery that this could work in a way outside our thinking. Mm. So this is what we've learned, at least until now.
But just to be honest, in our region, we also rely on competitive cluster in order to moderate the steering committee inside our RIS3, the EDP process in our RIS3 priorities. So we do approximately the same with the clusters.
Okay, thank you, Nathalie. The other panelist is James Wilson. He is the research director of Orchestra. Orchestra is the institute to research on business competitiveness in the Basque Country. It's a very well-known research center, especially in the field of governance. And James Wilson is as well are really good researchers on this type of topics about the managing of the regional innovation strategies and in general economic development strategies, bringing the role of having a lot of publication related to the role of universities and knowledge center on this aspect, and specifically in something that Natalie has just said, in cluster policy and how to dynamize cluster policies. I think James is the Secretary General of TCI network, the network of cluster, very well known as well. So thank you very much for being here, James. It's really a luxury and an honor to have your views related to the use of entrepreneurial discovery process beyond the smart specialization strategies governance in order to engage citizens and companies. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Esteban, and it's a pleasure to be here, and really fascinating listening to Ioan's story of implementation. You started off by saying that it was, you're putting yourself on the line to have a critical eye cast over this experience, but I think it's been fascinating. I think for me, one of the most interesting things about studying smart specialization strategies and particularly the entrepreneurial discovery process is that heterogeneity, and that you don't find any two experiences that are exactly the same. I think we've all been on a journey of experimentation over the last 6 years in trying to put into place this kind of new concept. And it reminded me, your experience also reminded me a little bit of listening recently to words from Dominique Ferret, who was kind of the lead thinker behind this concept of smart specialization. And he's recently argued that initially we thought the entrepreneurial discovery process was about setting the priorities. And I think he thinks we've learned along the way it wasn't really about that. It was about what happens after you've set the priorities and the process that's put into place around that. And I think that your experience, Ioan, really articulates that very well in terms of how you take forward from the priorities and get down into more granularity. Over the last few months, I've been doing some work with colleagues at the JRC, looking into entrepreneurial discovery processes around Europe. We've looked at 18 case studies across in regions across Europe, and your experiences really connect with some of the findings that we had there. And I just wanted to kind of draw out 3 or 4 points that I think link very neatly, many of which have tie in also to comments that have already been made and that Natalie has mentioned now. I think the first one is the issue of multi-level governance and that kind of linking between the levels. And this is something that certainly we found in our research is very, very difficult. Regions are struggling with this uniformly across Europe. And so it was fascinating to see how you have like a kind of a case that's emerged naturally in multi-level governance, in the sense that you have a regional process which has identified priorities, and then at a local level, a stakeholder has taken the lead to kind of deepen that process at the local level. So you've kind of almost solved the multi-level governance or part of the multi-level governance process naturally. And perhaps the key then, the next key is to link that together so that you have and this goes into, I think, Natalie's last point, that link between what's happening at the regional level and what's happening at the local level. And also, as you mentioned, Ioan, in your response to an earlier question, what happens at the national level. So it's kind of linking those 3 levels together. But I found it really interesting to see how that had kind of emerged naturally in this case. The second kind of point that I think links very neatly to that research is again linked to something that Natalie said around capacities and capacity building. I think, again, one of the challenges that we see regions struggling with kind of uniformly across Europe is that this is it's a difficult process. It's not something that comes naturally. Governments are used to more planning type processes, and they're suddenly moving from plan to process, and to a process that's heavily time consuming, and that needs a lot of time resources from a whole range of different actors, and that requires new capacities. The moderation capacity that Natalie mentioned, different types of leadership capacities, the kind of more distributed leadership across different actors, and again, I think that the case that you talked us through, Ioan, is very interesting because it shows how those capacities have almost been taken up by a private entity or by a consultancy that's kind of taken those capacities on board and is developing them themselves. So again, I think perhaps the question there is, how can we leverage that to build capacities in other actors so they don't remain within that one consultant, that they also can spill out more broadly into other actors within the local level and at the regional level, and then also perhaps cross into that multi-level governance at the national level. So I think that, you know, we have things to learn from your experience there about capacity building that we could take on board elsewhere. The third point, I think, and trying to link back a little bit to the issue of this series of seminars, and trying to link in the entrepreneurial discovery process to responsible research and innovation, or to the civil society link. And I see there was a question on the chat about this as well. It's interesting to know a little bit from you, Ioan, a question as to what extent civil society is involved at that local level, and actors that go beyond business and research. Certainly in the work that we've done, again, with the JRC across regions, is that we found that that's really the weak link. A survey of kind of national and regional policymakers, asking them to identify the actors that are involved in entrepreneurial discovery process. Civil society comes at the very bottom of that list in that research. And in all the cases we looked at, it was only really, I think, in the Helsinki region where we uncovered a really interesting process that was heavily engaging civil society in the entrepreneurial discovery process. So I think that this we're learning a lot about that, and we have a lot to learn about that. And so I'll be interested to know about whether you have had engagement outside of the kind of typical business research helix with that consultancy arrangement, and what your insights are perhaps in terms of how that's played out and what we could learn from that. And I think, well, I've lots more comments I could make, but I think I'll stop there in terms of time.
Yeah, I can relate to you about in this issue of engaging the civil society. Yes, for us it's also a challenge to get on board NGOs or representatives of what we are used to call civil society. Some of the participants have double or triple role, you know, so they can represent an NGO and also represent a business, because we have multiple layers of I don't know, social representation, let's say so, or economic representation and so on. Nevertheless, we've managed to some extent to get on board representative of civil society, and sometimes it's not very convenient, let's say so. Most of the time they are very demanding, and they have this habit of challenging the establishment and asking for impossible things. But yes, they are together with us, and we want to give them the possibility to address the issues that are interesting for them. The consultancy company also had engagement with the civil society, and also with the administration, because, as I said, it's not your typical consultancy company. They are more involved in the society, in the local society, and also in the regional society, and in the regional network of NGOs. So they are pretty well connected. So they get on board also, as I said, administration and civil society, even though maybe a better representation of a civil society in this case could be some, I don't know, associations of creators, or some associations of cultural operators, and so on. So this is, well, qualified as a civil society, but maybe not to the full extent of civil society. So yeah, sometimes it's hard to find genuine civil society representative with no other interest.
I think that's part of the problem with the civil society. We say it's been repeated so many times, we have to involve civil society, and a lot of the time I think we don't really understand what we mean by civil society. So I think, you know, it's a great answer, I think, to that.
Civil society in the end is also representative of a political party.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they are not coming yet to the EDP process, but never know in the future.
I think another difficulty is that we don't have instruments to address the interests of the civil society. We are talking always about economic growth, research, and innovation, but sometimes it comes to you NGOs and it's not part of the mainstream of the traditional activities of development agencies. At least we are talking about internationalization, investment, and this is another language. They were not our clients before. It's now that we have expanded our range of activities, and that's the main reason, because they don't have anything to gain with us. We are not the people they should talk in the public administration sometimes. It's most the social services. So I think this is another difficulty. I was thinking. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
No, I was just going to follow up that, Esteban. I think in that sense that the kind of some of the fundamental societal transitions that we're undergoing, related particularly to the kind of green transition, and perhaps some aspects or other aspects of demographic change, etc., perhaps give us more windows of opportunity for concretely involving civil society, because the innovations that we need from business and from government to solve some of those problems can go in different directions, and so the involvement of users, in a sense, is very important to make sure that, for example, the transport solutions or the food system solutions that we're developing are actually meeting the needs of society, as well as solving those, for example, environmental challenges.
I like very much that you mentioned related to that Helsinki, because it's consistently the Finnish people are very strong on engaging civil society, and that's why things work better. For example, I was juror of the Rio Stars Awards many years ago, so I could say now, and we as jurors has to select the finalists, and we discovered that even if it is a small country, Finnish has always finalists in the 5 different categories of the Rio Stars Awards, and it was always because of the same reason. They have a project, they have an initiative, and they know, and they show in the project that they will continue beyond the money of the ERDF or the European Social Fund, because they gather always the user, the civil society, so they have a wider impact beyond the funds that are given by the regional policy, and that's why they always have this type of initiative working really well, and has been doing that for decades. So we have this is a good thing of Europe, that we have always someone who knows better than us something, and we could get lessons from them. And this is the purpose as well of this team. Natalia, I'm going to make you a question, even if you are a panelist. It's because you don't say anything about civil society engagement in Centre Val de Loire, and I'm sure that you have lessons as well, or things to say related to that.
Yeah, but maybe, you know, in France, everything is very administrative. So in each region in France, we have a consultative sort of assembly with representative coming from the civil society. And it is a consultative assembly that give opinion about the different action that should be voted by the regional assembly. And in the case of the RIS3, we try to involve this assembly, and next month we're going to have a dialogue with assembly concerning our new RIS3, in order to to involve them a little bit. But yeah, as James said, the things are very, very formalized, and you have also representative coming from the professional syndicate, but also the syndicate for the employees, something like that. But everything is very formalized, and we don't have really intuitive personally people that are involved in the RIS3. And maybe it is a room for improvement in our region.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, there are always room to improve. How is said by for Demonic for it. So we have a question before for Ioan related to the involvement of civil society. It was done by Maria Teresa, and James mentioned that. I think we have almost answered that, but I don't know if you want to say something. Does the company also applying the EDP use the quadruple helix and also civil society organizations? Which are the difficulties met by the consultancy in implementing entrepreneurial discovery process for the promotion of innovation communities? As you know, innovation communities is a way to enhance the entrepreneurial discovery process that has been applied since 3-4 years. Ioan, do you have a reaction to that about the?
I have to have a reaction to
yeah.
that. This is why I'm here. No, as I already said in previous answer, yes, they involved to some extent the civil society in the local civil society, as well as us. We were trying to do that, of course. As about the difficulties in establishing the just to go back to the question, promoting innovation communities. I have no concrete answer to that because I haven't discussed this further with the company. I know that some of the difficulties were the engagement fatigue, because it's very hard to keep people engaged for a long period of time if you are not providing them with concrete, even small, but concrete results. So this was one of the main challenge for us and also for them, because not all the participants in the EDP processes that they organized later on became part and stayed in the communities. So there is a natural process of selection based on the actual personal interest from the part of the participants. So, and then you will have people coming to these communities even though they didn't participate in the EDP process in the beginning, but this is not a problem. But sometimes there is not a conflict, but some small misunderstanding maybe or some small adjustment needed to accommodate the initial core of people with the people attaching along this core. But more than this, I don't know in terms of difficulties. I don't know if it's
very well said. Thank you very much. So now we are almost finishing the dialogue. I'm going to explain you some opportunities or ideas, and I will be pleased if you could complement me as well. So one of the attendants has just sent a very interesting book edited by the Regional Studies Association about the entrepreneurial discovery process and regional development. Quite interesting, and you have the link to the book in Amazon. And as well, he has put another book that I cannot read that, but I will, because I have to speak. But anyway, you click on there because the first one from Amazon was very interesting. So the second one, another opportunity, if you want to participate in a congress, I will recommend you the European Regional Studies Association that will take in Bolzano at the end of August. Is in Italy, the north of Italy. So there is an open call for Astra to be a panelist there and a speaker there before 30th of March. And I think it's a good place to stay. So the Regional Studies Association as well, the editor of the other book, is organizing another congress, something similar in July. So, and as well, they have opened the call for Astra. So the 25th of February, interesting, there is an event about gender equality certification. So more and more, we try to put numbers and to establish a structure and good management. And this comes from British universities, Oxford Brook University, and it's been on their ideas of diverse policies and practice. I'm sure that if you Google that, gender equality certification on the 25th of February, you will find that. Another possibility or an opportunity for about responsible research and innovation is the one launched by the RING community, RING with 2 R's. So RING like the ring that you have in the hands with 2 R's. So the main purpose of this Horizon 2020 project was to establish a responsible research and innovation community of practice. They are almost finishing the project. They are going to finish in April. However, if you join them before the 28th of February, it's for free. Later, they will charge you. It's not a lot of money, but you can save that. If you Google RING with 2 R's, you will find that. So this is all from my side, and I am very grateful. These dialogues are getting better and better. Thank you very much to Ioan, who has been an excellent speaker, and to the 2 panelists that were in the line that we expect with these so good and outstanding panelists. So from a university, because this meeting is organized in the framework of a SWOF's 14 project that combines academia and practitioners. So from a university, for the first time in this dialogue, I say you goodbye, and I wait you for the 18th of March when we will organize another Responsible Regions dialogue. Thank you very much to all of you. Bye-bye.
Also, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ioan.
Bye, see you.